Right, hiya. Today what we're going to be doing is diagnosing the Jaguar XE 2 litre diesel from 2015 onwards engine mounting problem. This is a common problem with these cars. Jaguar, Land Rover are on their 4th generation of these mountings. For this very reason is they're weak, so they go too regularly, and the reason for that is exactly the same reason, I think anyway, as the Land Rover and Range Rover suspensions go, because the pneumatic, these work on a vacuum system. It's a bit of a weak point. So what we're going to do today is we're going to diagnose that fault, and then what we're going to do is put the new engine mountings on. So we're going to actually show you how to do the job. It's quite simple. If you've looked back in my catalogue, or you know who I am, you'll know that I like messing about with cars and motorbikes. I've got motorbikes and I've got cars. I tend to do all the maintenance on them because that's what my background was many years ago. So it was it's just one of those things that I've always done, is done my own cars. The great thing is, I suppose, for me, is I've got all the time in the world to do it now, because I only work 3 days a week, so I've got plenty of time to do these little jobs, and it takes me a lot longer now because I'm a lot older and I've got some health conditions as well. So let's get on with it. Let's go and diagnose it. Right, so diagnosing the problem is quite simple. When you get in the car of a morning, you press the start button, it'll fire up. There'll be no warning lights on the dashboard. There'll be nothing wrong with the car, way that the car actually runs. But when it drops down off fast idle onto normal idle, the car will vibrate and it'll just be unpleasant. You'll be able to tell quite easily. Then as the car warms up, or if you take it slightly up off tick over, it'll go nice and smooth. You'll still be able to feel it, but it'll be much reduced from what it was. If you get these symptoms, you'll know very well that it definitely will be your engine mountings, as long as there's no engine lights on. Now you can diagnose it this way. This is a good way to diagnose it as well. Right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to diagnose the actual fault itself. With the car running, what you want to do is reach down here. Try not to touch this, especially if it's warm, so the best time to do it is first thing in the morning when the engine's nice and cold. Start it up. It'll start up on fast idle and it'll feel alright. You'll be able to feel a little bit of vibration, but it won't be very pronounced until the revs drop. Once the revs drop onto a proper idle, then you'll be able to feel it very prominently inside the car. But the way that you diagnose it, dead simple, is you grab hold of this bit, which is the engine bit, and you should feel a load of vibration through it. Put your fingers down actually onto the mount and you should feel nothing, virtually nothing. You shouldn't be able to feel anything of the engine wobbling about or anything going through into the actual body of the vehicle at all. So it's as simple as that to diagnose it. Diagnose it on both sides, but even if one side's alright, replace both of them. If you're going to keep the car and you're not going to trade it in within the next few weeks or maybe a month or so, I would do both of them, for the simple reason is once you replace one, it's like shock absorbers. If you replace one of them, it puts all the load onto the other one, and the other one will fail in no time at all. How simple is it to take off? Dead simple. You've got 3 bolts. You've got one here, hopefully you can see at the back of there, dead easy to get to. You've got one there and one there, and then it's just a matter of jacking the car up in the air, as you'll see as we go along, taking the protective sheet off the bottom of the car, and then jacking the engine up to remove the engine mountings, and then the reverse just to put it all back together. Pop the air lines back on, start it up, let the pressure build up, and then hopefully that shaking and everything should go away. Right, so this is how simple it is. This looks like there's a load of stuff in the way, but there isn't. If you look straight down, there's holes down to everywhere where you need to go. Right, so the first ones, the ones on the outside, as you can see, I'm just dropping down here, keeping my eye on where the bolt is, and then just dropping that onto it. As you can see there, we've got the head, so it's sat on the first 13mm bolt. So the bolts to either side, so the actual engine mountings that bolt it to the actual body of the car are 13s, so they're 13mm, and the centre one, which is the one that's right in the centre as you look down at it, you can't miss it, this is how simple it is. Look, and as you can see, they're not very tight. They're just hand tight. Well, say hand tight, a little bit more than hand tight, but they're not murdered down. So you go from one side to the other side. Right now, the camera is slightly in the way here, but as I said to you before, you go down through the gap, like so. As you can see, it's just located onto the actual bolt itself, and then all you do is just undo the bolt nice and gently. Like that. Right now that's spun out all the way. You can spin these out because there's lugs that will stop the engine mounting from turning when we actually go to undo the centre one. Right, so that's what we'll do now, is we've undone the 213 millis. So now what we'll do is we'll transfer onto the 15 millis. And all we use is our magic piece of equipment, which is basically a magnet on the end of a stick. Bang, there we go, that's the nut picked up, and put that down on that side. The bolt, we do the same thing again, we go straight down to the bolt, and you can hear it just go snap onto it. There we go, bring it round, and there she is. There's one of the bolts. Do exactly the same thing for the second one. There she goes. And there we go. There's the nut on the end of the magnet. Sorry, the bolt on the end of the magnet. So that's all the top bit done. It's as simple as that. That's all there is to the top bit. Right, now before you attempt to take the engine mountings out, obviously you've got to jack the engine up. You need to get a block of wood on top of your jack, on top of your service jack, to spread the weight, and get the block of wood just underneath the front lip of the sump, where obviously it's at its strongest, where the metal goes up towards the engine. Gently lift the engine up, as you can see here on the right hand side, and that will expose the engine mounting. Then as you can see, all you've got to do is literally just, this first one's the hardest one, which is the offside, which is the one on our driver's side, and it's got to come out this way, which is sideways. So you wrestle it out, you get it sideways, and it comes out through that little gap there. Then what we'll do is we'll go over onto the other side. You can just about see the engine mounting there through the gap. You can see the block of wood on the left hand side underneath the sump, holding the sump up. As you can see, we'll try and get this one out, and it's a little bit too low, the engine, so we'll just jack the engine up a little bit more so we get that clearance, so you can actually see a gap between the top thread on the bolt and the actual mounting itself. Here we're having a look at the two engine mountings, and you can see the difference. The one on the left hand side is the one that's collapsed, the one on the right hand side is the new one. And here we go, going back in again. Nice and simple, it's just the reverse, so you've got to go up the side. Basically, you've just got to slide her up through there. Just putting the air pipe on, that's the vac pipe. It's going back onto it now. Those vac pipes just pop in the bottom. And this, as you can see, like I say, it's got to go up past the little plastic pipe there, over across, and then it slides nice and easily across and just drops straight in, as you can see there. Putting the pipe back in. That's putting the pipe, plopping that pipe back in there, and then it's a matter of it's got lugs on it, so it won't move. So now what you've got to do is you've got to let your jack down really slow till it just about touches the thread, and then as you can see, you pull it across, you pull the actual mounting across so the mounting fits into the hole, and then as the weight of the engine drops onto it, it will force it into those guides. There's guides on the bottom that you can see. When you actually have the mountings out, you can see those guides, and those guide it in, and then when you come to put the bolts back in, you don't have to fight to get the threads in or anything. They just go in nice and simple again, and all the putting it back together in is exactly the opposite to taking it apart. And as you can see here, he's just sticking the bolts in first, and then he'll put the nut on the top, tighten them down. You can get the specific torques from the Jaguar website or one of the forums if you want to torque them down. I just do mine because I've been a mechanic for years and years and years. You can just tell by the feel of it. You tighten them down and you know when they're right. So that, lads and lasses, is how you do the Jaguar XE engine mountings. So after you've done all this and you've put it all back together, you start it up, give it a couple of revs, and the engine will just go smooth as a button. And when I'd finished doing mine, ever since I've had the car, which is 2.5 years, they've never been as good as they are now. So it just shows that those engine mountings were on the way out from before I bought the car. So anyway, thanks very much for watching, lads and lasses. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope this has helped you, and there shall be more videos along on this subject and other subjects on the Jaguar in the future. So thanks very much for watching. I hope you found it informative as well as entertaining. Get on and get them engine mountings changed, and it will transform your Jaguar XE.